Good morning, everyone. Welcome
Morning.
back to my kitchen. Excuse you. I didn't even introduce you.
You said good morning. Okay, start again.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my kitchen. I have a helper today, my dear husband, Rich.
Good morning.
Say
Hi, Rich.
hi. Okay. So today we're going to be canning tomatoes. We have been saving tomatoes for 2-3 weeks.
Maybe even a little bit more.
A little bit more. Okay, so we have tomatoes everywhere. This bowl, this bowl. We have tomatoes that weren't 100% ripe, so we put them on the counter. And we are going to hop down to 2 of our 3 freezers and show you what we have in there. We have tomatoes hidden back here, tomatoes on the top shelf, tomatoes hidden behind tomatoes, tomatoes on the door, freezer number 2. Lots of cherry tomatoes, lots of Roma tomatoes. Okay, now that we have everything all wrangled up, I believe we have about 10 gallons of frozen tomatoes. And like I said earlier, we do have the fresh. Those are going to have to be washed up. We are going to start by adding a little bit of water under the tray, and this is just going to distribute the heat more evenly. Once that's added, I'm going to start by putting the bigger tomatoes in the bottom. I seriously doubt all of these are going to fit into the roasting pan. I'm definitely going to try, but if not, we'll go ahead and put them in a different pot. Holy moly.
You got it.
Yeah, there's so no way.
Well, how many gallons is this roaster?
Oh, I have no idea. Another great option to thawing your tomatoes is to leave them out to naturally thaw at room temperature, and the skins will definitely peel right off. Or depending on the time you have, you can add them to cold or warm water, and the skins will peel off perfectly just as well. We just decided to add them to our roasting pan and to sauce pots to kind of kickstart the heating process because we will be hot packing these. I'd say that's about 5.5 gallons that we could fit in the roaster pan. We still have one there, 2 3/4, 3 3/4, 4 3/4, and then the fresh tomatoes still. These I'm going to go ahead and wash up really well, get the stems off of them, and put them in a bigger pot. You guys want to see something really cool? I've never seen this before. We have twin tomatoes. Nifty. Okay, after a mad search, I realized this is the biggest pot that I have to use. So we're just going to go ahead and stick them in here. I know once they start cooking down, you'll be able to add more to the pot and add more to the roaster. And I did forget to mention what kind of tomatoes we're using today, and it's every single one that we grew. We just have a Roma here, a San Marzano. We have some chocolate cherries. We have beefsteak, super sweet 100, and just plain old cherry tomatoes. So I'm going to go ahead and add them to the pot. If you can hear my husband over here, he's washing the rest of them up for us. Oh, that's loud. So very loud. I think we collected way too many tomatoes.
Heck no, sauce and barbecue sauce and salsa.
Right, I'm excited for that.
Oh yeah. You can make your own paste. Tomato paste.
All right, so we have 2.5 gallons left, and I am not worried about that because as these start cooking down, there will be more space and we can add more, just like the roasting pan. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. This is a huge burner, so we're not gonna turn it up too super high. And I did forget to add a little bit of water to the roasting pan, so we're gonna go ahead and add it to this. That way it just doesn't burn. Oh, thank you. That's probably good enough. And then we'll chuck this one in here. Can you wash that one too? Thank you. All right, so we'll check back in a little bit. It has been only 10 minutes, and this is already cooked down a little bit. We got another pot, and this is cooked down a little bit, so we're going to add a little bit more to this. We'll let these cook down, and then add more. What do we have still left? This.
Just that and the fresh tomatoes.
And okay, so the fresh tomatoes. So about 2 more gallons left. Can we add anything to the roasting pan?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I'm giving you some help.
Oh, perfect.
I'm going to say these could be added, or the fresh ones, at least within 10-15 minutes. And I did forget to mention as well, when we harvested all of the tomatoes, the only thing we did was wash them, put them in the freezer bag. So all of the skins are still on, all of the cores are still on. And what we're going to use today, let's see. This Ball, you can see it, Fresh Tech Harvest Pro sauce maker. This is not sponsored. Last year, when we canned tomatoes, I only canned about 2 jars at a time. That's why I started freezing everything. And this year we did purchase a food mill, but one of my husband's friends let us borrow this. Thank you so much.
Mad Mike. That's what I call him.
Thanks, Mad Mike, for let us borrowing your sauce maker. So we're actually, while this is cooking down, we're going to figure out how to put this thing together and test it out. So we are 20 minutes in, and as you can see, because the tomatoes were frozen and they naturally have water in them, it's creating a lot of water. So what I'm going to do is use my handy dandy turkey baster, and I'm choosing not to keep the water or liquids because there's not really much pulp in there. It's literally just water. So I'm going to grab a big bowl and remove all of this. Let's hope I don't make a massive mess here. It's like a Mary Poppins pot. Never ending. Oh, there we go. Okay. I will leave just a tiny bit. That way it doesn't start burning in here. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I think we're going to do is we're going to take the tomatoes out of the other 2 pots, out of these 2 pots, and we're going to process them in our sauce maker. And then we're going to transfer, we're walking backwards here. We're going to transfer out of the roasting pan into the 2 pots. That way, after we process, we can put everything in the roasting pan, if all that makes sense. Whew.
The more water I get out, obviously, the better it's going to be because now we have to
Well, yeah, we'll have to
that down, right?
cook that down, longer. That's why. I figured the spider would probably be easiest. Roasting pan has been emptied, and because the sides here, it does get super hot, we went ahead and washed it out. Do you want to go ahead and dump that for me? You can't do it one-handed. So one bowl in. And we're moving on to the next. Two bowls. We have a bit of a leak and I'm not sure why.
I'd rather do this over the sink. I bet it was because that one tomato was so big and it's just like stuck.
That could be.
Put stuff right back through it.
Right.
Well, that's where it got caught.
Clogged up.
Yeah, I think just because it was like too much at one time.
Yeah. So just a little intermission to clean up. No big deal. Still a great little machine.
Absolutely.
Aside from the two minor leakage issues, we were pretty impressed with this compact little machine, and it definitely was a time saver.
Awesome.
Well, it sucks our mics are on. Okay, so that was the last of the tomatoes. I will say, all in all, this ball sauce maker did do a pretty darn good job, aside from the leaking issue. Let's show you guys. There we go. We'll get it cleaned up, no worries, but that's kind of a bummer. So this is how much we ended up with. It is a little on the watery side. So we're going to cook this down to a thickness that we're happy with. To the compost we go. Little glimpse of the garden. If you guys want to see, oof, I think we need to bury this. Yikes. And if you guys want to see a whole post on the garden, let me know. Give you a little tour. Kind of wild and crazy. It's not huge, but you know, it works for us. We enjoy it. We get food from it. So yeah, let me know. Good morning. It is officially the next day. We decided last night around 8:40 to go ahead and call it quits. And that is one thing I absolutely love about tomato sauce. If it is super watery and you don't have the time or the energy to continue in one full day, you can totally pop it in the refrigerator overnight and finish cooking it. And let me show you how far we got last night. So we started about this line here and cooked it down. Now all of this, it is burnt, and it's not going to make your tomato sauce taste burnt unless you scrape that into your sauce. So we just try to stir it without scraping the sides. Of course, we've taste tested. And this is how thick we got it. We did use a lot of cherry tomatoes, so those are going to be a lot waterier, if that's a word, than your Roma tomatoes or San Marzano Roma tomatoes. So, I mean, the choice is pretty much up to you. Sauce. Ow, that side is hot. Okay. Okay, so just a word of caution. The side of your roasting pan, if you're using one, is hot. As you can see, I just burnt myself. And I did forget to mention yesterday that we are using the Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving. Feel free to use whatever recipe you prefer to use. We're just here to show you what recipe we use and how we can So I'm going to go ahead and pop you guys over by the stove and show you what we're going to do next. What we're going to do now is fill up our pot. I'm using a pressure canner pot because it's the biggest one I have, but we're not using it as a pressure canner today. We're just going to be water bathing, but I already have my jars in here. And we're going to fill it up with water, turn the heat on. That way the jars are nice and warm, nice and hot for our hot sauce to go into. Our jars are all ready for us, nice and hot. So what we're going to do now is carefully take our jars out. And fill them up. So what I'm using today is citric acid. So you'll put half a teaspoon of citric acid per quart jar. If you choose to use lemon juice, I believe it's 2 tablespoons. So half a teaspoon. And I forget the headspace, so let's go check that. Dun, 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 dun. Half-inch headspace. Okay. So the half-inch, if you don't have that little tool, it's a little green stick thing. This line should be the half-inch headspace. That's 1-inch headspace. This just gives room for expansion. Woof. Okay, I'm not a super fan of that, so let's take a little bit out. Okay. I had to run and grab my vinegar. So once your jar, don't light your kitchen on fire, is filled up, we're just going to clean this off just in case. If not, your lid will not seal properly. Well, that's not going to work. How about this one? That's it. Finger tight. On to the next. And at this moment, my mic decided to stop working. So what I'm explaining here is that with the 10 to 11 gallons of tomatoes that we cooked down, we ended up with 5 full quart jars. And I didn't know it at the time, but this pint jar will be filled as well. Here, I'm just placing all of my quart jars into my pressure canner pot. We're going to bring the water up to a rolling boil. And once that happens, I'm just going to place the lid on top of it and let that process for 40 minutes. And once it's done processing, we'll shut the heat off, remove the lid, and let the jars just hang out for about 5 minutes. It has been about 55 minutes since we started processing the tomatoes in our water bath. I'm using so. So we water bathed quart jars for 40 minutes. And then I let it sit for about 15 minutes. I was doing a little cleanup and getting a little snack. But we're going to take these out of here, preferably straight up if you possibly can. and then put them on a towel to cool down for 12 to 24 hours. This jar, I didn't think would fill all the way, and I most certainly could have water bathed it in with the quart jars. Pint jars will process for 35 minutes, another 5 minutes. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I would just pop it in the fridge and we'll use it within the next couple of days. Now, with canning the quart jars, well, any jars really, you don't want to keep the ring on long term. And the reason for that is because you could possibly have a false seal. So the best way to do this is let it cool on your counter 12 to 24 hours and then remove the rings. And to know if your jars have actually sealed properly, go ahead and grab it with the lid. If the lid is stuck, it is most certainly sealed properly. This is just a jar of strawberry jam that I did a couple weeks ago. It's so good, we've already eaten an entire jar. And I'm going to say that I was a little incorrect on headspace. Bye, paper. Let me find the page and I'll show you. Kyle, you can come in, it's okay. Okay, so according to the ball book, your first ring here, let me get this straight, that's an inch. And I was saying that that's a half an inch. That is so incorrect. That is actually a quarter of an inch. So between these two sections here, that's going to be your half-inch headspace, and that's where you want to be at with the tomato sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these jars out here, let them cool 12 to 24 hours. I do 24 because I love to stare at them and look at all the hard work that I put into them. And one extra final tip before we go. As this jar cools down, it is going to get this powdery substance on the outside. That is because we have city water and what do you call that? Like a calcium buildup on the outside. To prevent that, I usually put a splash of vinegar in my pot, and that will prevent the powdery buildup, which obviously I forgot. But that's my life. Whoa. So to end this video, I would like to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Rich for helping. Do you want to come say thank you?
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you watched today, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, all the things. We'd really appreciate it. Okay, bye.